Fayetteville, North Carolina.
You've been a constant friend indeed. You were right there, providing for me.
God bless you. We are on Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM on your radio dial, WECU 1570 AM. Uh, Today is a great day. What a great day to be alive. I can truly say this to Pastor Lawson. I can't say this to Aaron and that. I haven't seen you since last year. I had to get my corny. That's my first corny joke for this year.
First time seeing you this year.
So I want to say this to both of y'all. Happy New Year's.
Same to you, and thank you very much.
Happy New Year.
And I am Pastor Tremaine Forbes from Kingdom of Heaven Ministries. And I have on here with me
Pastor Dan Lawson, United Gospel Outreach Church.
Elder Nat Farrow, Kingdom of Heaven Ministries. Except I don't have the little thing in front of under my name, but that's okay. It's just my first joke of the New Year.
I was say I looked at it and I saw that it was offered. I said, let me put that. I might put some cookie up the next week. But we'll just see.
Good to have the band back together again.
Oh yes. Yeah. So the first thing we can do, we want to talk about our topic today is what's new. If you want to get in on the topic, you can call us at 252-756-2008. That's 252-756-2008. Now, what's new to us might not, what's new to you might not be new to us. So you might have something that you want to talk about. What's new? What's new? That's the question today.
Well, you know what's new?
What's up?
For 2025, what's new is we get a new president.
You were ready. It's like you just, my God, you came right out the gate.
I just wanted to jump right on that one. We get a new president, and when I say new, he's been president before.
Okay.
But I think he's going to attempt to be something totally different than what he was before because, this time he knows he can't run anymore, not legally. And so what's the restraints? And, this is going to be interesting to just see what kind of government we're going to have with our new president.
And I'm going to let Elder Nat piggyback off that.
No, absolutely. It's going to be a new administration. And, I say administration with the new president. And it's going to be interesting. We're going to test the limits of our citizenship. And that's literally. I mean, the guy's coming in talking about taking away birthright citizenship, which I think he would have a hard time trying to do. I mean, that's totally tearing up the 14th Amendment in the Constitution, and I don't see that, but he wants to do it. So, I think that's a big deal. I think we need to understand the ramifications. Not, a lot of times we get caught up, and I think this is one of the things that he's good at, and I didn't want to get into a conversation about him, but distracting us with all the crazy stuff that he says and not watching the stuff that they're trying to do. And I think that's the new thing that we're going to have to really get a hold of, since your topic is what's new, is to not follow the distractions, but look at what's actually coming down the pike. And so that's something that we're going to need to pay attention to.
Okay, that's you talk about the citizenship thing. If you're not a citizen of this country because you were born in this country, then what makes you a citizen? It almost sounds like we're going back to the old Roman Empire where, just because you were in Rome, born in Rome, raised in Rome, don't mean you were a Roman. You so
Well,
what would make you a citizen if it's
well,
not?
that's why. Since you asked that question, I'm glad you asked that question. So
I didn't mean to get you started.
yeah, no, but it's good because that's one of the things I want to key on in my bookmark. One of the things we would I think really look back on is Dred Scott, the black man that was trying to get his citizenship. And as I was reading up on this, during that time, the Supreme Court in 1857, he took his case all the way. He was trying to get his citizenship. And to make a long story short, he took his case all the way to the Supreme Court, and they made what's being called now one of the worst decisions in the court's history. But before that, different places had different things going on about citizenship. Different states had different things going on. Missouri was different from Mississippi and Massachusetts and New York. You know what I'm saying? They all had laws on the books. And what made you a citizen, what you said, it really came down to the law. It came down to the laws. And this is why the 14th, the first clause of the 14th Amendment was so important after the Civil War, is that they settled that whole issue. It doesn't matter where you was born in the United States. You know what I'm saying? It had nothing to do with state citizenship. It had to do with national citizenship. If you were born on the soil, I was gonna I'll read the clause later, but that's basically what it was. And here you have somebody coming in talking about eliminating it, and I don't know, man. It's this racial thing has always been part of our DNA as a country. When people say things like "that's not who we are," no, that's exactly who we are. We've been like this for a minute, man. So it's not new. And if you brown,
Get down.
huh?
Get down, and if you're black, stay back.
And it's a thing, man. So I think we're revisiting some things that we thought we had settled.
Yeah, it sounds like Jim Crow can come back out of the closet. I mean, he don't have to hide no more. He's always been active, but he kind of went back in the shadows for a while. But now he can come out wide open now because he's gonna have a lot of stuff to work with. And we call it citizenship, but it's all about the color of your skin. They're going under the name of, because you notice even back during this Dred Scott thing, it was all about black folks. Nobody was having a problem coming from Europe. Nobody was having a problem. There was some issues with Asians, but people coming from Europe they weren't having any problems with any citizenship issues in America. Even after the war, when we had a war with Great Britain, there still was no problem with Europeans coming to this country and being treated right and claiming this country as their own. But if your skin is dark, then there was always an issue as to whether or not you are a citizen. And right now, Hispanics, as they go around the country trying to go about their lives, people question their citizenship without any proof at all. They just assume that you don't belong here. You're not a citizen. You're an illegal immigrant.
And that's something they've made up. The whole racial thing is something they created. Even the term white. You know what I'm saying? It's a construct that was created to keep poor. It really is. It's racial, but it's also it's also class, and it's you know, we can talk the racial side because we see it, but it's also class. Rich folks figured out how to separate poor folk. They figured it out. They said, because you're darker, because you're lighter, you're better than the darker guy. And that's essentially what white became.
So is that why a white lie is better than a black lie? You know,
Well, a little one.
you know,
little
white,
white lie.
white lies. You know, you hear people say, well, they're telling white lies, which means they're not harmful lies, but they're white lies. Yeah.
So my question is, what's new?
What is what?
What's new? We're gonna let's pivot from that a little bit.
Go back to what's new.
Yeah. But one of the thoughts is that the excitement behind something new, the excitement about new refers to the feeling of anticipation, curiosity, and positive energy that comes with encountering something fresh, unfamiliar, or novel, often associated with the potential for discovery, change, and positive experiences. It's the thrill of an unknown and the promise of something different. Sometimes we go into the new year because now we just talked about something that's old, and then now we starting to learn that some things old are new again.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
We were so excited. Well, some of us were excited about how things were going to go for us, and it looked like to me, I thought everything was going wonderful, but we come to find out everybody didn't find it a wonderful thing.
Some people say there's this saying that history may not repeat itself, but it rhymes. I think that's an interesting statement. You know, it's not quite the same, but it's similar.
It's like if you were enjoying a good cheesecake and somebody got in their mind, well, I want to throw a couple of pickles in it. Yeah, it was cheesecake earlier, but it just ain't the same, you know.
I think something. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, we got that joke of everybody eating potato salad, and then somebody new might have thought about, hey, let's throw about 8 ounces worth of raisins in it.
Oh my.
Yeah, that ain't the same. It
No,
looks
it
the
ain't.
same somewhat. Some of it tastes the same, but some been introduced new. But it ain't the same. But I'm hoping that even though I'm still hopeful, optimistic of some opportunity, but some people are gonna, you know, we're gonna find out that some of the people that are on the bottom might get further under the bottom if they don't reach up. They're gonna have to grab something. And so I suggest to you as a preacher, one of those things is Christ. The other one, you better get some information too. You better learn something.
I wanted to mention one thing though, that happened. Our oldest living president passed away,
Yes.
and I kind of, you know, my thought on that is that in a way, it's good that it happened now rather than a little later, in the sense that I think he'll be treated better in his send off. That's just my thought, you know, and you can read into that and go wherever you want to go. But I think his life was a fascinating life, and I honestly believe that his faith was really, he showed, his life showed his faith. You know, kind of like what James said, I'll show you my faith, you know, by my works, you know. And I think that was true with Mr. Carter.
I'm thinking, he's really, what I love about it, I think that he's probably appreciated more after being president than probably he was when he was president.
I think that's true, but I think that's a misleading, personally.
Okay, tell us about it.
Well, I think that's a narrative that was created, and he did a lot of things while president that were important to him. And but I think the I hate to go political, but the right really created that narrative. I don't think I don't think it's fair, and I think the historian that wrote it said that. And then when I look at his presidency, I think there were a lot of accomplishments. You know, all presidencies have challenges, but he did a lot. The Board of Education was created under his presidency. The one they're trying to tear down now.
I think he was. I like the Jimmy Carter after his presidency more than the one during his presidency. His presidency seemed to be frustrating to him. Not his fault, nothing he was doing wrong or anything like that, but as a Christian man, because he was striving hard to continue to walk the straight and narrow, even while being a politician, you know, and that's always been tough. That's always been tough. A lot of things happened that he got blamed for that really wasn't his fault. You know, they could have happened no matter who was in the presidency, like the gas lines. It was under Carter that we had to get gas on odd number days. You couldn't go get gas every day. You know, if your car was empty on a Thursday and your license plate ended in a certain number, you couldn't get gas on that day. You're too young to remember that.
Way too young.
Yeah,
I was here, but
I remember those days. You could not automatically just drive up and get gas unless your license plate ended in a certain number, because gas was being rationed, so to speak.
And you're saying that was his fault?
No, I even before I started the conversation, I said he was being blamed for things. It would have happened no matter who had been in the office. So no, it was not his fault. It had to do with, you know, the I guess you could say the Arab nations coming together and saying we're going to do this. It may be that's when that whole consortium of Arabs got together and said, look, we can rule the world through the oil. And they got together and then they said, we're going to control the oil output. And at that time, we had never seen it as a threat. America didn't know that, or America didn't see it as a threat that they would ever do this. So we weren't drilling that much ourselves. There were a lot of people in Texas getting rich drilling oil, but we never thought we had to be a super oil producing nation because it was coming so freely from overseas. But when they did that, they caught us off guard, and so for a while we were stunned. And again, it happened under Jimmy Carter's watch.
Okay, but also under him, Israel and Egypt came together, and that was a big deal because he brought that together at Camp David, and that was a big deal. So I mean, you know, there's always things that are going to happen, and then there were other things. I mean, I'm not really, you know, I don't want to get into all the things that he did as president, but there were some good things too, including the peace process with Egypt and Israel.
The point that I was going to make was that after he finished his presidency, and at the time he finished, he was considered to be one of the worst ever presidents. That's what, and again, that's a narrative. But he did a lot of great things after he got out of that office. A lot of great things. And he was comfortable with it, and he and his wife were working together, and he became real popular. He was more popular after his presidency than he was during the end of his presidency.
Now that was how I started. I think he was appreciated. That was my term. I said that he was more appreciated after the fact. But when you think about, like Elder Nat said, he number one, he out of that trial, he established the Department of Energy, and he also established the Department of Education. and a lot of the things that wasn't fair to him was, I think it was Iran, was that the country
The
that
hostage. Yeah, the
took the
hostage.
hostages? But you notice they took the hostages until Reagan got in office, and then they released them. 8 hostages lost their life, I think, and then the rest was freed after Reagan came into to play.
I
Oh,
am Miss Mary Cox. I'm Keller Thigpen's mother from Lawson Radio. Happy New Year.
Here's a minute to inspire fresh hope in your busy day.
A key question I commonly hear from those who have suffered abuse is this: is recovery even possible? Well, God knows how to make sense of your confusion, and He is completely trustworthy. He will bring safe people into your life to help you in the healing process and to provide healthy, long-term relationships. These relationships will keep you on the path toward healing. Remember the counsel given in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. God heals the broken heart when you give Him all the pieces.
This Hope Minute was brought to you by Hope for the Heart. To learn more, go to hopeminute.org.
Surely in the family, God is with me. Surely in the family, God is with me. Surely in the family, God is with me.
and on that note, we're returning on Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU. What a great way to start your day. And so we're talking about what's new. So on the sports scene, we're looking at some of the bowl games. What do y'all think about ECU, the ECU state game?
Well, that's nothing new. They beat State, they fight afterwards. That's the way they do it.
But they won.
They win the game, and then they win the fight.
Hey, they're Pirates. They're Pirates, baby.
But it's a rich history with those two schools, because State, like North Carolina and Duke and Wake Forest, always thought that ECU was that Carolina school that was like the stepchild.
We ain't.
And you're not even good enough for us to even put you on our schedule. So for a long time, ECU had to fight.
That's right.
To get on these schools' schedule. And they, one by one, they began to allow, ECU to be in their schedule. And when they did, it was at the right time. ECU had a good team, and ECU was beating them.
No, we don't beat Chapel Hill. No, wait a minute. Let me do this.
We beat Carolina and State in the same year one season.
Yeah, and Duke.
And so that's and so then and of course, they blamed it on ECU fighting afterwards and said, we're not going to play ECU no more. That's what State said. And the other schools kind of.
What's wrong with a good fight after a championship?
Well,
I'm playing.
They were
Before,
like hoodlums.
look, before we get that disclaimer on our real talk for real men, don't share the the views of the radio station. But no, listen, we literally, I'm so happy that we won. I kind of hate how they did it when they fired the old coach, but I figured they said, okay, from this point on, we're winning. And so let's go on and take advantage of get this brother on out and just try to make it that we're establishing a winning team. But that's how I look at it.
It was a good win. It was a good win.
It was.
It was a good win.
We won the military bowl. So that was a big deal.
Well, it's a funny thing, of course, ECU had not been to a bowl game for a few years. But, you have some teams that the only thing in their view or vision is winning a national championship. Other schools, if we can win a bowl every now and then,
Hey,
But and with the number of bowls that they have now, used to, if you won the Rose Bowl, or one of the top, there used to be about 3 top bowls, and if you won one of those, then you were considered. As a matter of fact, the national championship was usually played in one of those top three bowls, and if you won, then that was it. That was a big deal. But now they got so many bowls now.
Well, they figured out
The schools won a bowl game this year.
they figured out how to make more money.
Yeah. Bowls were making a lot of money. So,
That's really what the bottom line is.
yeah, sports is all about money.
It really is.
All of them now are all about money.
Well, what's y'all thought about athletes? It's kind of new-ish. Athletes being able to get paid. We
in
had
college, at the college level.
Yeah, on the college level. I'm all for it.
Well, yeah, me too. It had to happen sooner or later. And they were already calling the colleges plantations.
Oh my God. But you really have to take a step back into what's new is old again. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it was inevitable that it would happen. And I think, coaches, there are some coaches that are saying, I'm not going to coach in this kind of world. But they're not going to go back.
If they don't want to coach in this world, they can go sit down. I think that.
That's what the Alabama coach did. He got out.
Well, that's good. That's all right. But I think that using these people's images, considering the money that these schools make off of these players, I think it's been overdue. I think they should get paid.
Now, what do y'all think about, here you are as a coach. Well, I guess it's like that in the pros. But here you are as a coach. This young person is making way more, can possibly make more money than you. And I'm fine with it. But, I just figured I'd ask the question. And you're trying to coach them. They're like, Coach, I'm good for life already.
Well, what it basically is saying is that, this is a fan-based industry we're talking about. Sports is a fan-based industry. Fan-based because they're the ones that generate the revenue either by buying tickets, buying sports paraphernalia, or they are the targets of the big advertisers. The fans are. The big advertisers are not paying the big bucks for the coach. They're paying the big bucks because of what the fans want to watch. And they want the fans to see their product and go buy their product. They don't care about the coach. And I think the message to the schools is, your school was never that popular. It was the players that come through your school that had generated the popularity. Your coaches were never that popular. It was the players that had come through your school. So the message has been there. Now, finally, there's some, fruition to that. Star players are now getting their rightful place as they come through these colleges and universities. And some of these colleges and universities have become rich because of these athletes. And now that money is being shared with the athletes that generate it.
Absolutely. And to your question, Pastor Forbes, I think that's rare that a player would actually make more. It may be a few instances.
That's true.
And it would probably be in a smaller school, because the larger schools, them guys get paid. You even look at if I'm not mistaken, I think ECU is still paying a couple of coaches that are gone. But I'm just,
Our last coach, he got $2.8 million still on his contract.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But you look at the bigger schools, if you look at and one of the things I said to somebody this week about this whole college football thing, the SEC, these are some of the poorest states in the union. Yeah, the colleges are they're just making just $15. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's insane. But that's just the way the system is set up. And you look at some of these college games, there's more people in the stands than in pro football stands.
Wow, ain't that something?
Some of them stadiums are much bigger. So it's just it is what it is. But yeah, I'm glad that players are getting a piece of the pie, because even before, if you was in college, now they're getting smarter about understanding insurance and all that stuff. Because you a college player and get hurt, you used to be, that was on you.
And
You
I
know,
know plenty of them.
that's right, and that's not. So yeah, I'm glad they're getting it.
Yeah, they're becoming very accustomed to taxes too, income taxes,
Wow, yeah.
state and federal.
You know, and that's something, you know, back in the day, people, even when it comes to financial aid, they got to give an account for their financial aid. I don't like that. But, you know, it is what it is, I guess. And on that note, we are getting ready to approach a sponsorship break. And we want to thank every single person, amen, that listened to us on this radio dial. You listen to Awesome Radio, Real Talk for Real Men, and we'll be back in a few moments. You can call us at 252-756-2008, 252-756-2008, and we'll talk to you, and we'll see you in a moment.
I am Miss Mary Cox. I'm Killer Thigpen's mother from Awesome Radio. Happy New Year.
Does your child's public school hold a See You at the Poll Day? Stay tuned.
A legal alert. Here's attorney David Gibbs Jr.
It can be difficult for Christian children attending some public schools to stand up for Christ. And as such, it's so important to seize every opportunity for your child to gather with other like-minded Christian children for something like a poll day. See You at the Poll is a wonderful annual event held in many public schools where students will gather to pray at the school flagpole. This event is not school-sponsored, but the school cannot forbid it either. Let me repeat that. Legally, it has been held. Schools cannot forbid a See You at the Poll day to pray. If there is no such event at your child's school, let your child be the one that starts it. If the school gives you any issue, please call our offices at the Christian Law Association so that we can inform your school of your child's legal rights to have a See You at the Poll in order for the Christian students to pray.
You can speak to one of our legal missionary attorneys without charge, 24 hours a day. Call 888-252-1969. That's 888-252-1969. Or if you prefer, 888-CLA-1969.
Hello to our Awesome Radio friends and partners. This is Akila speaking here. You can reach us at 252-756-3137. We thank you so much for listening to our Awesome Radio network of stations. WBISLP Espanol 106.9 FM Winterville. WYLT 100.3 FM Rocky Mount. WECU 1570 AM and 107.5 FM. We are Awesome Radio, where God gets the glory.
Surely in the family, God is with me. Surely in the family, God is with me. Surely in the family, God is with me.
Hello, my name is Hayden. Thank you for listening to Awesome Radio, 107.5 FM, 1570 AM, WECU.
Well, we're back on Awesome Radio 107.5, 1570 AM and WECU. Also on Smooth Radio 100.3. We are back. We're talking about what's new. So who do y'all think might win the Super Bowl out of what's left, out of contenders? We know the Super Bowl is coming up in February. Who do y'all think got a chance to win?
Kansas City, and I'm done.
Ah!
I'm with him. I'm with him.
My God. Y'all not going to say Detroit or Buffalo or Baltimore or the
We've sang that. People have sang that song for the last couple of years, and it looks like Patrick Mahomes he's greedy. He ain't gonna let nobody else win.
In his stride, huh?
And they're getting better. They're getting stronger. They're getting healthier. Yeah, I think they're ready.
It don't make no sense. What's going on here?
Well, it's almost like you got the ideal coach. I mean, there is no coach that you can't make a case that any active coach right now is better than Andy Reid. You know, looking back over here, they've got the best defensive coach. There may be a few that you could line up beside him, but
Spags is the man. Spagnolia is the man. Yeah,
they did have one of the best offensive coaches before what's his name went to Washington, but what his name? The enemy? What his name?
Yeah, the enemy.
But
who?
The enemy?
Oh, okay, I thought you said the enemy.
Yeah, he would. But they got the best quarterback. They got one of the best tight ends ever. I mean, when you look at his style, he may not have the greatest numbers this year, but a guy that you don't even have to tell him what route to run. All you got to do is just, let him do his own thing. He knows how to get open, so you don't have to prescribe a route for him. And him and the quarterback seem to be on the same page so much, So whenever Patrick Mahomes needs to be bailed out, he knows that Travis Kelce is going to be somewhere where he can throw the ball and get a completion. So, it's almost, and then they got probably the best defensive rusher, so they just got a good team, and no other team.
I think they are too. I got one question in sports. One other question, since we kind of got it off into the sports thing.
We don't want to talk about the Knicks, so go ahead.
They did win on Christmas Day, but that's another story. And we have a good team. We're in third place. But my question was the question about Saquon Barkley. Should he play or not? They already seem like decided not to let him play, but I'm kind of with Shannon Sharp on this one and the other guy. Oh, no, let him play. Let him go after it. I think he should go after it, especially against the Giants.
To me, both strategies are good strategies. Some people say let them play because if you let them play, then they don't incur any rust between now and the games that count. You keeping them out because this game don't count, but rust, could set in. So let them play, even if you let them play a controlled type of game to try to prevent energy. But let's face it, if Saquon Barkley gets injured and can't play for the rest of the playoffs, that team is through.
You ain't got no hope for the Eagles.
They're through.
No hope.
So it goes both ways, You can make.
But that if is already there. It's always there. I don't think you play with that. I mean, I think 100 yards. I could understand if it was 200-300 yards.
Yeah.
100 yards.
And then let him get out. Bring him out. I see that's a good argument. Yeah. But if he get 99 yards and then get injured, the one thing is for sure, if he don't play, he don't get injured. That's for sure. Yeah. So you go with what you know.
Yeah, I think it's overcautious, but that's just my opinion.
But they've been doing that for years. I mean, you don't. Patrick Mahomes is going to be sitting down.
No, but they wanted him to sit. There was people talking about him sitting down a couple of games ago.
That's right. They don't want to take the chance.
No, but I'm saying they were talking about him not playing the last couple of games.
Yeah.
But they played anyway.
because they wanted to lock up that number 1 seed.
Well, so I'm just saying you can't live it on the fear. You got to play the game. Right. That's just my opinion. I'm not saying either or, but
it was like we locked up the number 1 seed. Our goal is the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is the pinnacle. So we're not going to sacrifice the Super Bowl, for any individual stats.
But it's not an individual stat. I'm going to tell you what I think. Michael Irving made the point that it really is a team thing. If the team, it kind of boosts the team if the team wants to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think it's a team thing too, because that record goes with the team.
It's a team thing, but it doesn't do anything as far as the coaches are concerned and the owners. They don't see that being a plus for them reaching their goal, which is to win the Super Bowl. And they just don't want to risk it. And I can't say I blame them for that, but if it was me, I would want to see him get that record too. But I'm not going to condemn either side. It's one of those. It's a tough one, because if he get out there and get injured, and it doesn't have to be a big injury, something that's going to slow him down or make it a little bit more difficult for him to do what you need him to do in the big game. And and you just don't want that to happen.
Okay, I just was curious what y'all thought.
I'm going to watch a Kansas City game without Patrick Mahomes. I'm not going to like watching that. But I understand,
Well, we're gonna see. I got one other thing. Can I interject this?
Go for it.
Since we talking about what's new, and I think I mentioned this to you yesterday, Pastor. This whole idea of May 7th and real ID. Yeah. I think that's good information for brothers to know about. Make sure you got your real ID. You know what I'm saying? Either your real ID or your passport. But most certainly understand that they're going to start enforcing that. And if you don't know what the real ID, it was an act of 2005 that's supposed to come into play May 7th. And requirements for driver's license and identification cards issued by the United States and its territories. And if you don't have that, you can't fly. And you can't go into a lot of federal buildings. Go ahead.
That's one of the things that I think the Democrats need to wake up on, and I think that may be considered a new thing. We're going to be, what's new? What's new is we're going to start spanking the Democrats. They're going to get more criticism after losing this past election, probably more than they've ever gotten in their history. But one of the things that I think the Democrats ought to do is stop worrying about this ID thing. If they look back and see how huge their efforts have been to get people registered, do you know it's harder to get people registered to vote than it is to get people to get a legal ID? It's not that hard. Why are we pretending that getting the ID is so hard?
I think a lot of people don't know about it, though. That was my whole point of bringing it up is to inform folks that it's happening.
I'm not talking about what you're talking about on May 7th. I'm talking about the whole issue of the ID. It's not that hard to get an ID. Now, they claim that there are some people it's difficult for them. Well, it's just as difficult for them to get registered to vote, but that's never stopped the Democrats.
Watch this. Let me tell you what I had to do for somebody. They didn't have their ID in time to vote. You know what I did?
What you did?
I took them to.
Wait a minute. This is not going to get you in jail, is it?
It might. Let me go explain it. You don't even mind.
Go ahead.
I took them
as long as you know.
I took them to the Board of Elections. Had them get a voter's ID. Won't hard at all.
Yeah.
Took them straight there. They had some info to show that they were who they said they were. Got them a voter's ID. It looked better than my driver's license. Then I thought I did it. I started thinking to myself when they went to vote. I said, dang, I should have got one while I was there too. But you get a voter's ID as well.
But that's something they added. That is something they added. Before that, you had to get the state ID and you had to have other documents to get that ID. Just like you have to have other documents to get your driver's license. Some people don't have those documents. That I think that was the argument, and it wasn't necessary. That it's something that they put in. This is where we got to understand the laws. I don't think it's a democratic thing. I just think it's something that they create things. They create things that are not necessary. It's like they create a problem.
Instead of playing defense all the time, play some offense. It ain't like the Democrats can't afford to have a campaign to help people. If they should have been doing this a long time ago, and it wouldn't. And now it wouldn't even be an issue. Make them come up with something new, because the Democrats can afford to get every person that don't have an ID. They can afford to get them one.
Yeah, but it's the whole ID thing was the same thing about these quote unquote voter integrity laws. They created a problem. It's a problem in search of a solution. You know what I'm saying? There was no problem. There was no problem.
I get that. I get what you're saying, but there's an easy solution. Why not just go and solve it?
Yeah, but we keep following them with they bring up problems, they create problems, then they bring in a solution. We keep following them with the problems they create. And I say, why should we keep following them?
Because that's one that adds value. Do you know how valuable it is for a person to have an ID? It's more, it goes beyond voting. And I'm saying you can afford to do it. Why not add value?
I agree. I agree with you.
Constituents by helping them get their ID.
I agree with you, but yet and still we have to bring out the fact that it wasn't a problem.
Right, we get that. I told you, we get that. We all get that.
Okay, so it needs to be said.
It's been said. Okay. But now that it's been said, why let them keep saying it every year?
Well, now it's a law, so you have to follow the law.
Get people ID'd up. That goes
right.
You have added value to that individual because let's face it, they needed an ID anyway, whether they vote or not. You need an ID. Everybody needs an ID. And it's going to become more difficult to do a lot of things in this country as we continue to see immigrants coming in illegally. That ID is going to become more and more important.
I'm going to play elder's advocate for me.
Elder's advocate.
Yeah. Sometimes, hey, there you go, something new. So, how about for those people that, because you go back to land ownership, people that don't have an address or a permanent address, or they might be trying to go to, they might be transient, and it's hard for them to get ID.
So you're saying you're basically talking about homeless people.
Yeah.
Homeless people can use the ID of their relatives, parents. That's easy. That's an easy one. Now, they have to be willing to work with you on that. All they got to do is say, well, where did your mother live? Okay, well, let's see if we can.
Mama ain't living.
Daddy, brother, sister. You don't have you have no relatives.
Brother and sister don't want to be bothered.
So it doesn't have to be a bother. All you got to do is call up, Sister Linda and say, Sister Linda, we want to give your brother an ID, and all he needs is an address.
He don't live here.
You know what?
Yeah, but he doesn't have ain't about to compromise my benefits. Having nobody thinking that somebody hit me.
That doesn't compromise your benefits.
Well,
can I?
Okay, well, hold on 1 second. I'm playing elder's advocate. I can't let elder do it. but I've literally known of times when people wouldn't let you put somebody on their ID if they got Social Security.
Yeah,
because then they're going to try to say, so then they paying part of your bills or should be.
No, they don't have to live. You don't have to live at an address to have an address. That's why most of the time when they ask you, where do you live? Then they say, well, what's your mailing address?
Right.
You don't have to live at an address to have an address. You don't have to live there.
Right.
Which brings,
But those cases are going to be rare where a person can't get an address to use for their ID. That's
Yes,
gonna be
yes, Elder. And we had fun with the elders.
there's more and more homeless people now. That's one thing. Second thing, we make it sound easy. It sounds easy because you already have yours in place. Somebody that's in the situation that's out there, a lot of that stuff is not easy. I know, I've been there. It's not easy, and they're not thinking about that. I agree with you that all this stuff probably can get done, and there's probably a solution. That's the whole point of them putting it in law, because they know it'll be hard. They're not saying you can't do it, but they know it'll be hard. And that will discourage people.
That's the cop out.
Oh, I don't think it's a cop out. I think that's the reason they do it. They don't care about you having an ID or not having an ID. It's to make it hard for you to vote.
So we're not going to do it because it's hard. That's what
No,
you're saying.
no. I'm not taking anybody out to question. I'm saying the people that are putting the law in place know that it's another stumbling block to keep you from getting to the polls.
But for those of us that want to solve it, why should we not proceed?
We agree with
I'm not arguing against that. I'm just saying the reason that it's in place is to.
Elder, we have a caller. Hello, caller. You're live and on the air. You're on Awesome Radio.
Good morning. I'm enjoying the conversation. We have to. Well, if you want to get some food stamps, I'd be willing to bet you, and I'm not a betting person, that they'll fill out what they need to do to get some food stamps and get some food. But we got to stop making excuses.
That's a very good
for
point.
some of our people that don't want to do something and make sure it's complicated and blame the other culture all the time. Now, the other culture blame for a lot of stuff. I mean, they're guilty. Now, they're guilty for a lot of things.
Make no mistake.
But we sometimes let it look like they are guilty than we are. You know, we want some food stamps. I bet you we get our idea to get that.
That is a great point.
That is a good point.
Thank you, Brother Johnson.
Okay.
Appreciate you. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
But yeah, I understand Elder's point. Make no mistake. I understand his point. But at the same time, I'm thinking the Democrats raise a lot of money, and they spend it. I think they need to reallocate where they're spending some of that money and get down to the grassroots and make some efforts to get some of these kind of things resolved.
Well, I'm with William Barber. I think the issue should be turned to poor people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. These are the poor people that don't have their ID. These are the poor people.
And it's not necessarily a black thing either.
No.
There's more for white folks. So
people that drive cars got IDs, right? So it's usually people that don't drive cars.
You know? But a lot of times, let's be clear. A lot of times, people that have to carry everything they have with them sometimes lose stuff and be intransient.
Oh yeah. Or they get robbed or somebody, you know. So yeah, they're going to be. I'm not saying you're going to be 100% successful.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking that you know, if it's such a big deal that there are so many people in the Democratic Party don't have IDs, and I'm a forget Democrat. Let's just say anybody in this country that don't have an ID, there ought to be some efforts to help them. We're spending so much money on so many other things.
And on that note, we talked about some things that were new to us, and prayerfully, we hope that it was a blessing to you. You're listening to Real Talk for Real Men on Awesome Radio on WECU. Love you. Talk to you next week.